Hello, boys and girls. My name is Mike Kelly, animatorsforum.com. Somebody on my channel asked to get the Daz Cat, or perhaps the Daz dog. So I did this.
Welcome. Please make yourself at home. I've been expecting you, and I am really excited to finally see you here. So, what would you like to do today?
Okay, this is that's just the video I created from it. Let me show you how I did this. We had to cheat a little bit, so hopefully, I really wasn't sure what he wanted. What he mentioned was, and it is true, that Daz, the cat and the dog, do have visemes in them. Maybe some of the other animals do. I'm not sure. So the real question is, if they have visemes, can you not make them talk? And as you can see, the answer is yes. But let's show you how, and let's show you how we kind of had to cheat to do that, because it is a bit of a cheat. So this is the cat in Daz. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and export it. And when we export it as Daz Cat, which I've already done, but we're going to do it anyway, and it exists. And so the first thing we want to do is make sure we get all the morphs from this. And I've talked about this in other videos before. Remember, you could always take a look here and see the morphs that are available to you. And there's a ton of morphs here, lots of morphs, okay? So what you want to do in order to get these morphs is to specify in the edit morph rules the starting portion of these morphs. In other words, all these morphs start off with Daz House cat, okay? So if I put here and I put just Daz House, that will get all of the morphs that are there. Okay, makes sense? Yeah, in this particular case, I could have just put Daz or even just D, but because there are no other morphs in this file other than that. But if you have a file with more than one object and you only want to pick off the morphs, you want to make this word as specific as possible. So if I had the cat with some clothing, and I did the clothing have morphs, I'd want to specify like Daz House cat or something like that. Okay. So anyway, so if I do that, I've already done that, and it exports it with the morphs. And then you might say, well, then we're in good shape. Well, yes and no. Okay, here we are in 3D Exchange, and you have to use 3D Exchange. You can't use Character Creator. We would like to use that, but obviously Character Creator is only for two-legged characters. In 3D Exchange, when we bring in this, the two options we have to bring in a rigged character is you can, let me show you where we are. You can convert it to, I've already converted this, so this way. You can convert it to non-human, and you can convert it to non-standard. So let's talk about those choices. Non-human might be your first choice. Non-human really means anything that, it isn't a human. A horse, a dragon, a cat, okay? And so if you do that, and you can do that, and you almost need to do that if you have motion files that work on four-legged creatures. And a lot of Daz, you can get some motion files, and I think I've actually demoed that. One of my other videos about horses. I'm not sure. If you are confused at all about that, let me know, and I'll see if I can find that or do it again. But if you have motion files for that specific type of character, then you basically have to convert it to non-human. The downside of converting to non-human is then you cannot use visemes. You cannot use the expressions that we saw that made that cat talk. Okay? So we're cheating a little bit here. We're going to convert it to a non-standard. So that's a little different. And the reason we do that is, again, so that way we can then bring up the expression editor. So when you convert it to non-standard, what you'll see is you're going to go in and it's going to look like a human because it thinks basically the difference is non-human is not a human, non-standard is a humanoid character, but it doesn't follow the standard format for iClone. And so you map all the bones out. Well, in this particular case, what I did was I mapped the bones as if this cat was a biped. Okay, so the legs are these legs here. Laid them out there, and then the arms are these legs in the front. You'll notice that cats have the reverse leg that some creatures do, ostriches, and some dinosaurs have this reverse pivot. I used to know what that was called, but it's a reverse thing. But anyway, you go ahead and map that out, and it's actually pretty straightforward. I mean, even map the tail. The problem with doing this is now, and I left the T-pose alone. If you were really going to do this, if you were determined to do this, and say you said to yourself, Mike, if I map it out this way, couldn't I then create some motions for it myself? Like if I had the perception neuron suit, you could do that. You could actually get on all fours and dance around and do the motions. The problem with that is I would actually have to really put it in a T pose to start with. It's not really in a T pose. T pose looks like this, the arms outstretched, everything. This isn't in a T pose. And you might say, well, what's the difference? Well, the difference is if I go to a different kind of pose, for example, if I try a basic run, and you'll see what it looks like, because it isn't in a T pose, it moves it in weird situations. I don't know if you can see what's happening here, but the legs are actually moving okay, but the back legs, but the front legs aren't. Now, if I put it in a T pose, this would actually stand upright. It actually would move okay. You might actually even be able to, like I say, generate some poses if you're down on all fours. You might be able to do that. It's a possibility that you could generate some things that way. But in any case, I'm not doing that. So that's where I'm cheating in this regard. I'm not going to generate the motions for this other than just the head motions and neck motions and that sort of thing. So, and you can go ahead and do that. You can map I didn't do that here, but if we turn this off to active, you can go ahead and map the neck. Remember, you always map the lower portion of the necks. So yes, we'll go there and we would map, that portion, that neck there. And etc. So we would do all this, put it in active T pose, go ahead and go and convert, and then it would convert it. And yes, we'd say yes, and it's converted. Okay. Then the next thing to do, and this is the key to making the animation part, is we want to go to the expression editor. And in the expression editor, and I'll bring this onto the screen, what we want to do is map all the various expressions that we can map. We can't map all of them, but we can map a lot of them. So for example, head orientation. So here, like for upward, see, we have the head upward, and what we do to get that is you simply go ahead and adjust it. So you adjust your head, and then you do a set. That sets that upward. Then there's downward, same thing, leftward, rightward, tilt head left, tilt head right. And each time I hit a set, and I'm doing that with just adjusting the head this way, and then I hit set, and that sets those tilts. Same thing for the eye. But to do the eye first, you actually have to set the eye bones properly, and I didn't actually show you that. So let me go out of that to show you. You have to do that inside of the conversion process to convert the non-standard. You go to this process, and then you select the bones. It would normally be up here. I would select the bone, and then like this bone here, and then I would go and map it. Map to the right eye, map to the left eye. So I would do those things, and they're already mapped. I've already done that. Okay, got that? So, yeah, so I've done that already. So now I'll go back to the expression editor. So in the expression editor then, since you've mapped those, then you can do the eyes. So you can do the eyes, and again, you're just using the rotation controls to map the eyes upward, downward, all these sort of things that it has, okay? And then the next thing you do is the jaw, and again, we're going to drop the jaw. So we map this, drop the jaw, downward, and move down. And you can adjust these to various things using some of the reason how I did the drop jaw is I moved to the morphs that we have here. Where are we? I just zoomed right on past it, I'm sure. This is so slow. There's a lot of morphs in this cat. Let me see if I can find where that drop jaw morph is. Here somewhere. Well, I don't see it, but I know it's here because there we go. Mouse speak. So I just use the mouse speak to drop the jaw. So, and you could adjust this any way you want. It's really more of a visual thing to get it. Then once again, you're going to set it. That's going to set those drops there for the drop. It's easy. I'm doing this on dual monitors, so it's easier to see that. Now, the tricky part. Let's finish this. The muscles. So eye blinks. Again, you have eye blinks, and you set those up. So eye blinks here. There are eye blinks here. Again, in all these thousands of different morphs. There's a lot of morphs for the cat. I don't remember where that is. Somewhere. Trust me, there are eye blinks here somewhere. I don't know. A lot of morphs. There we go. Blink eye left, blink eye right. Okay, so you have the blinks there. So you adjust those. Same for the squint and the wide opens. I adjusted those. So the last part is the visemes. Okay, so for the visemes, you have to be a little creative here because they're not going to map out exactly. And I can't tell you that I'm the expert on what, there's a whole science in viseme matching. And I would direct you to look at the web and do some research on that. Basically, they've determined that really about 6 or 8 visemes is all you really need to do good lip sync. But they have a lot of them here. So you basically go through and adjust them here, E and ER. I might do a little bit of E in there for that. And again, as soon as you adjust these here, then you do a set. So you're basically going to watch the mouth as you're doing these and see how it works. Obviously, the ones that actually have letters like the TH, it's easier to see, and then you can set those. But you'll just have to figure that out. So you do the different visemes, and when you're all done, you've set them all, then you're set, and then you can go ahead and export this. Okay. So, and I've done this. This is like one of those cooking shows. So, I've already cooked this, and we're going to export it. We're going to open up the recent project. We're going to open up the Daz Cat project. And the first thing you need to do when it comes in is you'll notice the eyes are weird. That's the way it's mapped in materials. So what we want to do is we want to go to those corneas, see, and we want to make them transparent. So knock down the opacity, and so now we have good cat eyes. The other thing you're going to want to do too, and I've done this on the other thing, is that for the materials, for some reason the bump maps and the roughness maps are not coming in. Let's see if I can find these over here. Ow, ow, ow. It's killing me here. Okay, so in the runtime textures where this house cat is, these are the textures for the cat. Okay, so here's the black bump here, black bump and the black specular. So basically what I do is I select them all that use those bumps. I think all of them except for the cornea use that. So you can come up here and select all of that. They all use the same maps. And then I can just drag in the bump into that bump. And then you get this little dialog that asks you for bump. And then it's gonna place those all in there. And the same thing for specular. You drag specular in. Now, one thing you have to remember is when Daz says specular, and we use roughness down here, roughness is the inverse of specular. It's just one of those things. I can't tell you. Sometimes the Daz maps will say roughness on them. And they say R or roughness or whatever. If they say that, then you can just drag the map specifically over into there. But if it's a specular map, if it says specular or spec or sometimes just S on there, then you have to invert the maps once you drag them over. And I'll show you that as well, since we have a little bit of time here as this goes in. And there's the bump map. Okay, and then we're going to move down. So for roughness, I'm going to drag the specular map. It says specular into here. And again, it's going to replace all the maps and link those, you see. So it's linking, so any change you make in the map is also linked to every other one, which is good because they all use the same map. But what we have to do is we have to invert them. And you'll see why in a second. When we do this, put them in, it's not going to look very good. By the way, while we're doing this, you'll notice the posture is weird here too. We'll talk about that in a second. Okay, so you can see, I think you can see how shiny this is. It's shiny wrongly. He didn't just have a bath here. So we go to the roughness map, we go to adjust color, and we invert it. And then we also invert it. This is the magic incantation. You might say, how do you know all this, Mike? I just do. What can I say? I really can't tell you how I know this, or I'd have to kill you. But you do minus 18, and then you're adjusted. Then you've got all that maps adjusted. So there it's right. Okay, now back to why. Remember, it's trying to put us in a T-pose, and we didn't do a T-pose. So if you wanted to use this, just like it is, just for the animation of the head, which is what I did earlier, what we probably want to do is create that T-pose so that when we put other animation on this that uses the arms and legs, it wouldn't go crazy. The other thing you can do is you can go to modify here, and you can go to the edit motion layer, and we can take those legs, arms, what do you call them, but they're legs actually, and we can rotate them down. See, they're crossed there actually too. And then we can actually, I think we need to rotate them slightly outward, and let's see, that's not too bad. Anyway, you want to play around with them to get them to look decent. She's still a little pigeon-toed, which for a cat's not good. Okay, and then we're done, basically. Now, at this point in time, if we go ahead and apply some of these motion files to the cat, particularly if we apply a motion file and then we remove the body motion to the cat. So we can do this because it thinks it's an avatar, so it's going to think it. And you'll notice it makes the body motion wrong now. So the first thing we'd want to do is bring up the motion layer and bring it up here. And then we want to resample it, sample the clip, sample all parts, optimize. We want to optimize this out. And then after this is all done, what we're going to do is basically take out all the parts of the motion that we really don't want, because the cat is not a human being. So eventually this will come up. How's your evening treating you? I just watched the second Jumanji, which is not very good at all. The first one was great, but this one is not good. So here we go. Has to sample all that data. Sometimes it's a little annoying how long it takes to do this. And there we go. Okay, so now what we want to do is we want to take the torso, for example, and delete all that information. That takes a little while, but it doesn't take too long. And again, we would normally do that with all of the torso body information too. We get rid of everything except for, we leave the head motion because that's good. We take, leave the head motion, as he said, leave the head motion. Take out the left arm and the left leg, because those are basically, left arm and right arm, those are basically not kitty arms. Don't have to worry about the fingers, because the fingers aren't mapped properly. Anyway, so we didn't do that. And the same for the legs. Get rid of that. And get rid of that. And probably, I think we did map the feet, so probably have to take care of that. And maybe take care of that. Something like that. Something like that. I think that would be what we need to do. And then, if we play this clip, if we go back to here and play it.
Please have a seat. And let's start the class by trying to remember what we reviewed last week, what was covered, and your summaries about the lesson, as I am pretty sure that most of you do have an opinion about both sides of the story. Am I right? Good. Let's begin then.
So basically, this is Mrs. McGonagall in her cat transformation, teaching the class to Harry Potter and all his friends. Okay, so anyway, that's basically all it is. There really isn't a whole lot to do with this. Hopefully this answered your questions. Now, if you wanted to combine the two, let's say, Mike, I want to have, all the body motions for that four-legged creature, but I want to have, animation for the head. You'd really have to cheat and do it in two different things, so you could have the cat walking around in one version and then stop here and talk in a full version. Or like I said, you could try setting up a T-pose and doing some captures on your hands and legs, hands and knees, I guess. That might be interesting. I'm not going to do it. I'm way too old to do something like that. But hopefully this at least give you some idea on how you can have talking animals inside of iClone without too much effort. I think we did that in, just a very few minutes. So I'll see you on the forums.